Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Downtown Madison Inc. Advocacy Update Series. We are excited for our first ever advocacy update, new for 2023. We have a virtual event providing our members in the greater community an opportunity to learn more about DMI's advocacy work, our initiatives, and our priorities, and to get a deeper dive into some of the most pressing issues to DMI and to downtown Madison. This is the first ever of our new series, and I'm Jason Ilstrup, president of Downtown Madison Inc., and I'll be giving an update on what's happening in DMI's world, and we'll have a conversation with different city leaders. And today we've got a great friend to DMI and a great friend to downtown and a great friend personally, Matt Wachter, the Director of Planning, Community, and Economic Development for the City of Madison. After my update, though, we want to make sure we have great time for a conversation with Matt. But before, we want to thank our sponsors. We've got three great sponsors that are helping us out with this new series. First, we've got Sinair, the Fiore Companies, and Hush Blackwell. So a huge thanks to our friends at Sinair, Fiore, and Hush Blackwell for all of your support. There's a lot happening here in the advocacy world, and we're going to get into a few updates about what DMI is working on right now. And if you want to help or learn more on any of these, just please contact our office and we can make sure to get you all set up. One of the biggest items happening in the advocacy world in downtown is the building energy benchmarking, which is a resolution that the city of Madison is trying to enact on commercial property owners of buildings larger than 25,000 square feet. This will annually benchmark and report their energy usage to the city. We are watching this issue very, very closely. In addition to all the buildings at 25,000 that'll have their energy use monitored, any building larger than 50,000 square feet will also be required to perform a building tune-up every 4 years by a qualified professional, and that will make up, and they have to make up any low-cost corrective actions. As an organization, DMI believes in the value of energy benchmarking if it is done voluntarily and the information is confidential. DMI, along with our great partners at the Greater Madison Chamber of Commerce, in 2015, worked very closely with the City Madison and the City Council to enact a voluntary energy benchmarking program. Unfortunately, though, nothing ever came of that program, and it was not enacted or acted upon by the city. So right now, DMI has serious concerns about this current legislation, and we can't support it. Along with our partners at the Chamber and the Smart Growth of Greater Madison, we have questions and concerns about the significant costs of this program, including these tune-ups, which we don't think will provide huge energy savings. Also are concerned about the public nature of the record activity. As written right now, the data will be subject to public records requests without any of the ability by the businesses to provide context for what is happening. So what we do is we want to encourage our members to stay engaged in this process. It is going through the legislative process as we speak. It had a meeting last week with the city's Economic Development Committee, and just yesterday with the Sustainable Madison Committee. We'll be going back to the Economic Development Committee and then to the City Council. So please do pay attention to this important resolution and share your thoughts with your alder if you get the chance. As always, with any issue, that is an important way to have your voice heard on what is happening in the City Council. Another large topic for discussion and advocacy for Downtown Madison Inc. is transit-oriented development. I know that's a subject we're going to dive deeper into with Matt Wachter later, but DMI was very supportive of transit-oriented development's passage just a few weeks ago here in the City Council. Transit-oriented development will help increase housing and employment opportunities located near dense transit corridors. Although the center of downtown is not affected by this because of the zoning rules that are already in place, so that area from Blair to Park Street, the Cap East and Western sides of downtown will now see potentially more dense pedestrian-oriented mixed-use development near busy transit corridors. This is a really important piece of legislation to try to build more density and really try to build more housing because we need it now more than ever. So we are excited about the cities moving forward with transit-oriented development. And another very exciting project working again with the City of Madison is the Lake Monona Waterfront Project. This is a big week in the history of the Lake Monona Waterfront Project. This Thursday, January 26th from 6 o'clock at the Madison Central Library, also simulcast on the City Channel. The final three planning firms will give their final designs. That's the agency, Sasaki, and James Corner Field Operations. They'll give 30-minute presentations on their proposed designs for the Lake Monona waterfront. Again, that's the area running from Machinery Row all the way through downtown, past John Nolan, past the John Nolan Causeway, Monona Terrace, John Nolan Causeway into Olin Park. This is a time when we can seriously transform how we access the waterfront, not only from downtown Madison, but from the east side and from the south sides. And these are some amazing heavyweight firms that are working on our plans. The city's ad hoc committee will then discuss these plans and decide who the winner is over the next couple of months. And then that final firm will do a master plan for the area. And it behooves all of us to try to make sure that that master plan comes into fruition. If you want to learn more about what happens this Thursday on January 26th, you can join us on Wednesday, February 1st. We're excited to be part of the Clean Lakes Alliance Frozen Assets Festival at 8 a.m. on Wednesday the 8th at the Edgewater Hotel. We're going to be hosting a panel discussion to discuss what the planning agencies said. We've got Allie Westman-Chin, President and CEO of Destination Madison, Raj Shukla, who's the president of the Friends of Nolan Waterfront Private Group. We've got Alan Arnson, the chair of the city's ad hoc commission, and we have the Clean Lakes Alliance, and most importantly, Alder Mike Verveer, who helped kick all this off with funding several years ago. They're going to be talking about how we can connect downtown Madison to the Lake Monona waterfront. So please do join that great panel on February 1st. All right, a couple more updates. We are knee-deep into our endorsement process. In 2023, DMI will be endorsing candidates in all 20 races of the city council and in the mayor's race. We are conducting those interviews now and hope to be made with all of our decisions after the primary sometime in early March. We also have to highlight a debate we'll be running with our great friends at the Wisconsin Policy Forum. It's going to be a mayor's debate on Monday, February 27th from 6 to 7:30, again at Madison Central Library. For more information on these events and anything else we talk about, make sure to check out our website. Speaking of events, we've got a couple other large events taking place on the 26th in the morning, not to be confused with the Lake Monona Waterfront event. We've got our next What's Up Downtown breakfast, and we're going to be talking about a big issue in college athletics. And why is this important to downtown? Because one Badger football game, one home game, is a $19 million economic impact in Dane County, and much of that downtown. So we're going to talk about how the sweeping changes we're seeing in name, imaging, and likeness are benefiting UW athletes and the UW Badgers. And we've got an excellent panel. So please do join us, 7:45 at the Edgewater Hotel. We will only be hosting that event live, so you have to join us in person for that. We will be recording it, so we have that information later on. And then last but not least, on Thursday, February 9th, from 4 to 6, we've got our first New Faces, New Places of the year at Madam. Madam's an amazing nonprofit here, located their new offices downtown at 203 South Patterson, Suite 400. Hope you can join us for these great events. Again, go to www.downtownmadison.org for more information. All right. You've heard enough from me. And now I'm just going to let Matt Wachter, the city's Director of Community, Economic Development, and Planning, just talk forever. How does that sound, Matt? Does that work for you?
That works for me. Thanks, Jason.
I won't ask you any questions. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Matt, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. Well, thank you for being our first ever guest here on our advocacy update. We talked significantly in the update about transit-oriented development and housing, right? And we're seeing a real crunch for housing in the downtown area. And we're seeing that crunch, come out through development. On our development tracker, we've got 5,000 units of housing in the works, and that still may not be enough. The region continues to grow significantly. So the question we have for you, Matt, what is the city doing to increase housing development, in particular affordable housing in the downtown area?
Sure. So our larger department, Planning, Community, Economic Development, a lot of the focus is on housing, always has been. And for the last 10 years, I would say the city has really focused on, digging into the data, making sure we know what's happening in the market, building out our toolbox of things that we can do to help encourage affordable housing, all housing development. And about 3 years ago, we took a step back and really tried to wrap our arms around all of the plans and reports and things that we were doing, and tried to distill it down into a strategy, which we call Housing Forward. And that strategy sort of covers 5 main areas of focus. And the first one is about just making sure that we're delivering enough housing and a wide variety of housing types to serve, as you mentioned, the sort of strong growing market that we have for housing. In recent years, the exact tactics that we've used to increase housing have mostly been around looking at the rule book that we have, that developers have to follow to develop housing. So the zoning code. So we've created some new zoning designations that allow for, big sort of regional mixed use developments, and this applies to the mall areas, Oscar Mayer, these places that could become large mixed use, almost mini downtowns in the future. So we've added that. Last year, we looked at the zoning code and made a bunch of surgical adjustments to make sure that the zoning code allowed developers to go ahead and build the things that we called for in our own comprehensive plan in the neighborhood plan. So sometimes that meant that the plan might have called for 4- and 5-story apartment buildings. So we need to make sure the zoning code made it really a straightforward path for those sorts of things to be developed in places. So that was a big change we went through last year. And as you mentioned in your opening remarks, just last week, we passed transit-oriented development overlay. So what we did is we looked at the map of where our new bus rapid transit system was going to run, where we had really great metro service coming in where people could hop on a bus every 15 minutes. And our policy said those are really the places we want to make sure we see a lot of development, where we have that robust transportation system. And what the overlay does is it changes some of the rules of development in those places. So something can be built denser, taller. It could maybe get away with a little bit less parking, things like that, because that transit system supports the development. So it's only been a week, so we haven't seen any developments come in to take advantage of that, but I'm sure we'll all be watching to see how that plays out. So all of those are adjusting the toolkit, again, to let the market develop more housing in the places that we have as a city have decided that we want to see increased development. So specifically on the creation of affordable housing, just allowing it to happen isn't enough. The city really needs to take a more active role, usually in the form of helping to fund and support that development. So almost 10 years ago, we created what we call the Affordable Housing Fund, which is a multi-million-dollar per year investment. And it's a combination of TIF funding and general city funds that support private nonprofit development of affordable housing. And in the last decade, it's delivered a pipeline of almost 2,000 new affordable apartments that really, without that funding source, it's unlikely that those would have happened. And the Affordable Housing Fund helps to make them happen, but it also gets us a seat at the table with those developers to make sure that they're going into places that have transportation, that have good access to grocery stores and schools and those sorts of things. And it lets us also negotiate with those developers to make sure that maybe we get a deeper level of affordability, or we get more 3-bedroom units, because that's what we see as a need in the market. So we've really taken a much more proactive stance on affordable housing through that Affordable Housing Fund. In recent years, the city also created what we call a land banking fund, where the city goes in and sees an area that maybe has a shortage of affordable housing, or we see it rapidly price increases, and we can go in and buy land. And sometimes we assemble that land so we can make it available for affordable housing to be developed in the future. This is a slow play where the city sort of looks ahead to the future, looks for opportunities, So it doesn't create affordable housing tomorrow, but the goal is to, over the long run, make sure that we make those affordable housing opportunities available in places where we think we're really going to need it. And then the third thing on that affordable housing side is that the city, specifically the Community Development Authority, which is part of our department, is an affordable housing developer. We're an affordable housing owner, and we're also an affordable housing property manager. We have over 1,000 units that we own and manage ourselves. And as we look towards the future, a lot of those sites are going to be ready for redevelopment. So in the downtown area, our Triangle development, which is on the corner of Park Street and West Washington Avenue, we're about a year into a master planning effort that will see that site completely transformed and adding hundreds of new units of affordable housing, as well as replacing the ones that are there. Had a very robust resident engagement program, working with them to hear what people want to see in their homes as we go through and redevelop it. And I think that throughout 2023, we'll have exciting news as we unveil that full plan for the redevelopment of that site. We also have a variety of other smaller sites around the city that we're renovating, replacing. So that's us taking a very active role in the market to make sure that we have high quality affordable housing. And then, beyond making sure that we're delivering a lot of housing and affordable housing, the Housing Forward Plan also looks to make sure that we're doing things to make sure that the housing market is working for people, especially our more vulnerable populations. So we've put out funding that supports nonprofits, that supports small developers getting into the market. We support homeownership in a variety of ways. We've also, in the last couple of years, with federal funds related to COVID and dealing with that, we've put out tens of millions of dollars with the county and our nonprofit partners to make sure that people who fall behind on rent because of economic situations, they can keep up on that rent. We help with eviction prevention. All of those things are a big emphasis of what we do to, again, keep people stable in their housing. And then when it comes to individuals in our community who have fallen out of the housing market, who are experiencing homelessness, that has been a lot of effort, a lot of time and money in the last couple of years, is working with our shelter providers to site a new temporary men's shelter on the east side, but also a new permanent purpose-built men's shelter is on its way on the east side of town. And we also worked with the Salvation Army to look at their East Washington campus, help them secure some federal funds to move ahead with the redevelopment of that site, which will have a housing component as well as a shelter component serving women and families. So I think when you look at that breadth of things, one of the things to take away is there's no magic bullet in there. It is really a wide variety of things, us working with the private sector, us working with nonprofit partners, in some cases, the city taking on the role of ensuring that affordable housing is developed.
You hit it right on the head right at the end with, there is no panacea, right? There is no one perfect solution to try to help us through this housing crisis and an affordable housing crisis. And there were other items that you all worked on that you haven't mentioned, right? The changing of the conditional use thresholds, the allowing for an ease of accessory dwelling units or ADUs. And on the private side, I think you all have been supportive of the Dane Workforce Housing Fund, right? Which has helped close the gap on several projects, not just in Madison, but also in the entire region. It sounds like there's a lot of different ideas, particularly with Housing Forward. So what is the future of Housing Forward, right? What are the next sort of projects you're going to be working on to help continue to ease this housing crisis?
Sure. So there's a handful more of zoning tweaks and things like that we'll always be reviewing and looking at. One of the things that we're doing is looking at real estate that the city of Madison already owns that is well situated and could be developed by a partner, by the city, into more housing, more affordable housing, looking at all of those things. And then some of these things, the shelters and stuff like that, that's a long-term project that, it's going to take us years to deliver on. So all of these things are sort of continuous efforts to keep making the tweaks, to keep growing the programs. Something like the Affordable Housing Fund, we put out the money every year, and almost every year, the mayor and the council have increased the size of that fund, asking us to just keep doing more. So that's what we'll continue to do.
We'll just give credit where credit is due too. I think you're able to leverage that money into more, state WIDA and other credit that are there. And I would say, huge congratulations to you and the mayor's office to really leverage as many of the outside other governmental resources that are available. One, question is obviously it can take time sometimes to get a project entitled and through the city. What are you all doing to sort of, keep that timeline short and really keep the holding costs down and get projects through the entitlement process as smoothly and as quickly as possible?
Sure. So a lot of these zoning changes, as you mentioned, reducing the conditional use threshold is to make that path for development as predictable and consistent as possible, so that people can plan for those things. On more of the affordable housing side, we make sure that our timelines for funding processes, all these things line up as well as they can with something like the WIDA tax credit cycle. So we take our cues from a lot of those funding programs to make sure that our money and things slot into those projects well, but they slot into the timelines as well as they can. And then the things like land banking and things like that, we're the patient money who can, sit on land while a process is worked through, while other funding sources are acquired and things like that.
Madison does, you and I both know this, aspires to be a very progressive city. Are there some progressive policies you're seeing in other cities, but maybe even in our community? And an example I would give on the affordable housing side is this really unique project on the 300 block of East Washington, right? The St. John's church site, when they're partnering with ULI. St. John's owns the land, right? And that changes the capital stack for that project. We're also potentially seeing another project on the west side of downtown with the neighborhood house off of Mills and Regent. These are good examples of real public-private partnerships working on the affordable housing issue. Are there other things that you're sort of seeing in conferences in areas that you've been in that other cities are doing that we might try here to be successful, try to get more housing and affordable housing into downtown?
Well, the St. John's example that you gave is a great one. So the city has been part of a larger conversation with our faith communities to look at their real estate assets and look to see is a church is the future trajectory of that to be a mixed use site that includes affordable housing and things like that. So we have a handful of sites across the city that have come forward, and we're looking at ways to partner with those communities to support their development of affordable housing. When we look at sort of nationally what other cities are able to do, it's a little hard to compare things as apples to apples because we all live in a different regulatory environment from the states. So in general, in Wisconsin, our ability, we can't tell people that they have to build affordable housing, but we can certainly incentivize it. So a lot of our incentive structures are based on copying the best practices that we can from around the state, from around the country, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support the creation of affordable housing. And so I think one of the more innovative places that you've seen that recently is us working with the Core Campus Project on State Street to develop affordable student housing, which is a niche that we haven't really played in before. And in there, it's a negotiation with the developer to help support them doing that. So that's a unique area that we're doing more research into. We're also right now doing some research into ways that we can support more affordable home ownership options for people. We've long played the role of providing down payment assistance and some homebuyer education, but looking to expand our toolkit in the ownership department, particularly in the form of also looking at condo structures and zero lot line townhouses and things like that provide a wider variety of home ownership options beyond just a single family home.
Now, switching subjects, well, somewhat actually, potentially this next subject could be beneficial. Housing is one of the greatest economic development tools that the city has is tax increment financing or tax increment districts. Can you give us an update on what's happening downtown and how we're sort of using this important tool to move the city forward in an economic development realm?
Sure. So in downtown alone, we've expanded and created a number of new downtown TIF districts. So TID 45, which covers sort of the west side of the square, we recently expanded that to help build out Wilson Street and do a major streets project there, but also capitalizing on, as you mentioned, the number of brand new apartment buildings that are going up. So those apartment buildings are going to help pay for the streets infrastructure that's going to serve those buildings. So that's a lot of the way that we end up using TIF is to harness that new development, but then to reinvest in the core infrastructure that serves those neighborhoods. We've also recently created 2 new TIF districts in the downtown area. So our TID 48, which is the Regent Street, West Washington area, which again, there's going to be a number of brand new high-rise developments going in that area. And we also have a significant amount of new infrastructure that's going to go in to support those, specifically bike pedestrian safety sort of facilities to help people, cross West Washington, to cross Regent Street, to build out the lake-to-lake street connection. So a lot of that core infrastructure is going to be paid for with that. And then we have the new State Street TIF district, which covers, pretty much the whole street. And the big project there is going to be replacing our Lake Street parking ramp. But it's not just replacing the ramp. That site is going to be a new mixed-use development where we're partnering with Mortensen Development. And so what the city gets from that deal is we get a new parking structure, partially paid through by TIF, partially paid through by selling the air rights above the building. But we'll also get a new intercity bus terminal in that building. And that housing that goes above it will have an affordable housing component for students. So all of those things get mixed together in that building, but it really wouldn't be possible without creating that larger TIF district that covers State Street. So those are things that are, they're already underway. We're working on all of those. Looking a little bit farther outside of the downtown area, we've got a new TIF district that we're moving forward in South Madison. And the purpose of that TIF district is to help fund things like infrastructure like the North-South BRT route, other major infrastructure projects, but also make core infrastructure investments in the town of Madison that was absorbed last October. And it's things that, are mostly about safety and stormwater and all those things that now that the town is part of the city, we're responsible for making those upgrades, but also making really large investments likely in areas like economic development, like affordable housing. We have a menu of things that TIF district could do. If you go out farther on the east side, we have likely a new TIF district to support the Gardner Bakery affordable housing development. And so that's one of the things that we've really spent a lot of energy in the last few years is using our TIF districts to pay for affordable housing. And we do it in 2 ways. One is that the new development itself is going to generate new tax value and we can reinvest it with the TIF district into the affordable housing. But also when we close TIF districts, we take some of that increment and it helps fund our affordable housing fund. So these are things that you don't see, but behind the scenes, these TIF districts are actually a big generator of funds for affordable housing in the city of Madison. We've also used TIF to pay for a large part of the bus rapid transit system. And so a lot of that infrastructure, to build stations, fix intersections, those things, it's TIF districts that are paying for a lot of that work, which these are all things that we've done before, but the scale of the investments in bus rapid transit by TIF is really unprecedented in the city of Madison. So these it's not just making TIF loans to developers, it's using TIF to really build out robust infrastructure, pay for affordable housing. We've been able to move TIF from one district to another, so we can make strategic investments sort of through time and space with our TIF districts.
We're going to get into a time and space conversation. I'm not going to be of much help here, but I want to say that, it's interesting to hear about the different creative uses we have with these different TIF districts, right? And what they could potentially be. And I know there's conversations about potentially more areas in the downtown area. I do want to say a thank you, though, personally to Matt Wachter, because he and I have been involved in what is now TID 48 on Regent Street for about 10 years in a project that was put together, a great public-private partnership between the city of Madison, the SSM Meritor, UW Health, UW, the athletic department, MG&E, and several others, First Weber in particular, that really are looking at how do we implement that Regent Street plan. And part of that was to bring in TID 48. You can start to see the development actually happening now, right? If you go to the block, the 700 block, you've got what, 550 apartment units just on the block alone behind Panera, and now at the corner of Regent and Park. And we've heard, we've done property surveys with many other owners, and we're hearing about a lot of other projects that are happening. And you got these two huge waits at the end of these attractions, right? These waits, the Cole Center and Camp Randall, and what that connection could look like. So I just want to say a huge thank you for that. So I do want to dive a little bit more into TID 50. And that TID 50, again, is the State Street TID. It's a new TID. The city was able to put in their plan some money about planning, right? State Street is a big conversation for a lot of folks. And those that may not have heard, come June or July of this year, the buses will be removed from the 400, the 500, and the 600 blocks of State Street. And, that's just a good entry into what does that sort of future of the downtown look like for you, Matt? How do we build an economically strong, equitable, inclusive, vibrant, place to visit, to live, and to work? What is the city doing to sort of make sure that we keep the downtown a really vibrant place, and a place where everyone feels like they can belong?
Yeah, I think a lot of the core functions of the city, delivering a transportation system that gives people a lot of options and is convenient for people, is a big part of that, to make downtown easily accessible and easy to move through is a big part of that. So, our transportation department leads a lot of those efforts. The unsexy things of delivering high quality basic services between snow removal, garbage, all of those things are about making a city that works. And that is a lot of the work that other departments, not PCD, do every day to make sure that we have a incredibly livable city, which I think is core to the things that you mentioned. You talked about parks. Our park system, I think, is second to none, and we're looking at making historic investments in really signature things that will change the front door and look of the city. So those are huge projects that the city is working on, making generational investments to things. And a lot of that comes down to quality of life. And those are things that the city is set to deliver it. I can't tell the next exact sciences to locate here, but the city can do things like deliver high quality services. We can make an attractive, great place for people to live. And that is where we spend a lot of time, energy, and money here at the city. But some of the specific things that we do, to sort of support the economy is we have a lot of programs focused on supporting small businesses, whether it be facade grants for a small business on Monroe Street, supporting our partners at Madison Development Corporation or WIBIC to provide funding, technical support, those sorts of things to our small business community. We've been doing those things for a long time. Over the last couple of years, with the struggles that we saw with COVID and disruptions, we made a conscious effort to support small businesses, particularly small businesses owned by underrepresented communities, to make sure that they could make it through the pandemic and grow and thrive in the future. So some of those things are small grants that we helped businesses with. We launched a program called Commercial Ownership Assistance to help businesses that long-term renters, strong businesses, let them grow into buying their own building and create an asset that would help their business grow and thrive. We have business improvement grants. We have the pop-up shops on State Street to create new opportunities for small businesses. So those are things that we've just launched in the last few years to, again, support that community of businesses, you know, and a lot of that activity is in downtown. The other thing that we did that, you know, was a response to COVID was the Streetery program to expand sidewalk cafes using the public right-of-way to activate them to support those businesses. And this was a temporary thing that we launched in COVID, but we just made almost all of that permanent. So again, creating that environment for lively, thriving businesses, especially in downtown, is part of that. You know, sort of more future investments that we're looking at are things like the public market. So when we passed the budget last fall, the city increased its investment into the public market to make sure it could move forward. So that, again, is a generational type of investment to create a thriving, economically vibrant community here in Madison. Other investments that we've recently made is sorry, my calendar's telling me I need to go to another meeting soon.
We're almost there. We're almost.
No. The CDA's Village on Park project and the Urban League's Black Business Hub on Park Street. Again, large investment, public-private partnership, really helping support Urban League, you know, work on their project there, but also expanding and re-envisioning the Village on Park to create a real community space in South Madison. And just last Friday, we closed with Centro Hispano Friday at 4:30, they became the proud owners of a new site for their new headquarters. So those are the sorts of things that we are working on, working with community partners to let them grow, expand, thrive. So that's just a handful of the things that are on my to-do list over here.
I wish your screen was not grayed out behind you, that we could see what a huge congratulations to our great friends at Centro Hispano and Karen and the team. That's big news. I did not hear that they closed on Friday. And, you know, I think, look, we're at a different time in downtown. I think these two words get often, they're used too much right now, but, you know, we're at an inflection point and we can reinvent. But honestly, the fact of the matter, those words are right, because downtowns are changing. We're less reliant on workforce, and maybe more reliant on population and those 5,000 new units that are coming in. And know that DMI is a partner that wants to work with you on these public-private partnerships on how to keep downtown an energetic, a vibrant, you know, equitable place that everyone feels like they belong, and we're here to help. All right, we've got one more question, but we're going to start a new tradition here at the Advocacy Update. Matt, you get to ask me one question, whatever you want. He's
Wow.
for this, by the way, so I don't know what he's going to say.
I don't know what I'm going to say either. That's tough. I feel like I know a lot about you already, Jason.
True, we do know each other well. Yes. Yes.
All right. It's a tough. See, I don't want to ask you what your favorite something is. I don't want to put you in that position.
Oh yeah. Please don't ask me what my favorite downtown business is. That's not a good idea.
All right. Let's see. A Jason question that I want to know. Well, this is just a boring one. So where's the next place? I'm asking more than one question. So the first one is,
fair.
So what's next on your video series tour of downtown spots? So I can.
Well, it's going to be Weary Traveler, and it's already been shot. So we just need to put it all together. So there you go. There's your preview. Go get yourself a Bad Breath Burger at the Weary Trail.
Oh, all right. I'll put that on my to-do list.
That was an easy one. Okay, ask me a harder question. And then
harder question.
Mm-hmm. I'll answer anything, minus, I guess, personal finances or like relationships.
So what's your vision for what's next for State Street?
That's a great question. You know, in fact, had a conversation just with an important key leader just yesterday about this. I really see a State Street that becomes a magnet for everyone to come down, right? The main street for, I would say Main Street for the entire state, but minimally the Main Street for our region. And what does that look like? It has a great mix of businesses owned by a variety of people doing a variety of different things. We have opportunities to use public space more like we do with the Streetery program. I would say the future, particularly the 400, 500, and 600 blocks, is really to look at when we have the ability to have the buses gone, what could that street look like? Now, cement's not going to change today, and we don't have that in the budget now. But in the next couple of years, when we do need to make updates to State Street, what does it look like? Do you shallow out the curbs? Do you make more space? Still allowing for, emergency vehicles and still allowing for deliveries, but looking at how we use public space in a way that more people than just single occupied cars or whoever it is really get to use that space. And I think if you want to continue to create these amazing magnets or third spaces to drive people downtown, and State Street is one place we can do that, but the top of State is another, right? I'm really quite excited about the Wisconsin History Museum, potential Veterans Museum project. That is the most used pedestrian intersection in the state of Wisconsin. What we could do both on the public side with the lands that we all own, and then the private side, some really cool, interesting businesses and buildings that could come in. And then another one that I'm super excited, we talked about earlier, is the Lake Monona waterfront, because this is a generational opportunity to really look at how we interface with one of our greatest assets, the water. I'm sitting here in my office in the Hubdy building, and it is tricky to figure out how to safely get to Lake Monona. And I'm just a few blocks, where am I? This way, a few blocks away. We really can look at this and do something special as both the public and the private side. And that work is happening now. We've got three of the greatest landscape architecture firms in the entire world, right? The High Line and these different waterfronts. They really are going to show us the way, but we need to actually do it. Madison loves to create a plan that gets dusty on a shelf. We need to actually make it happen. Was that a good answer?
Yeah, that was great.
Good. Perfect. Matt, we are so thankful for all your help and what you're doing to help build that economically strong, equitable, vibrant, and inclusive place to visit, to work, and to live here in downtown Madison. So thank you, Matt Wachter. Matt is the Director of Planning, Community, and Economic Development. That is a mouthful, Matt. We're so thankful for you being here today.
Glad to be here. Good to see you.
All right. Thank you also to our sponsors, Sinair, Fiore Companies, and Hush Blackwell for their sponsorship of the Advocacy Update series. We'll be out once a month talking to key leaders in the city and giving updates about what's happening in downtown and with our advocacy work. We'll hope we'll see you again soon, and we'll also hope we'll see you downtown. Talk to you soon. Bye now.